Well, I don't know if I can be as exciting as Elliot about reading. We're going to be talking for the next couple of minutes about deep learning, which is a type of artificial intelligence, which it really has the ability to transform society. So I'm excited to talk about this today. All right. In the popular book and movie, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the people they built this giant computer, and they asked it the question, what is the ultimate answer to life, the universe, and everything? And the computer came back with 42. 42 was the answer to the ultimate question. Hopefully, the deep learning computers can come up with better answers for our society than 42. In popular culture, a lot of times artificial intelligence has a negative connotation, like HAL that takes over in 2001 and the spaceship computer that takes over in WALL-E. But in real life, artificial intelligence is doing really cool things. It's beating chess champions like Garry Kasparov. This happened a few years ago, and that involves a very highly developed cognitive skill. Even more impressive was when the computer Watson took over Jeopardy and beat Ken Jennings in Jeopardy. Now, this involves, I know, go computers, beat humans, right? Okay. The ability to understand language and then formulate questions is huge. Artificial intelligence up to this point has been about the data that humans input into a computer that gives the computer its knowledge. Deep learning is a very different type of computing. Deep learning uses the type of learning that children and infants use as they recognize language, as they recognize faces and sounds and objects. And so the computer is self-taught. The circuitry in a deep learning computer actually mimics the circuitry of the human brain and that type of learning that the human brain goes through from infancy and thereon. What we have now, one of the first tests for the deep learning computer was to be able to identify a cat. And so they put the computer through a bunch of YouTube videos until the computer could realize what a cat was. No word on whether they know what a grumpy cat is. Facebook is using deep learning technology in its facial recognition. So any photo that goes on Facebook, it can recognize who it is based on the contours of the face, which is amazing. Who else is going to use this, though? If they put these cameras on sidewalks, anyone who's looking is going to be able to see, using facial recognition, where anyone is at any given time. The potential to predict behavior. I think this is probably the most fascinating and the biggest alteration potential for deep learning is the ability to predict behavior. Companies are already starting to use this. Target will send out advertisements for diapers and for other items if the person has purchased a birth control test. So we know that companies are already starting to predict our behavior. The National Security Agency used words found on Facebook and Twitter in different countries to determine which ones would have a revolution during the Arab Spring. Very fascinating. All right. So that brings into the question of what happens when you have big data, like the National Security Administration has, plus deep learning. What kind of outcomes are we going to be able to see? And these are really big questions, and some of them are ethical as well. So using big data and using deep learning, are we going to be able to predict market upheavals, business cycles, and booms and busts in enough time for the government or markets to react? What about weather patterns? Are we going to be able to give people enough notice to move out of the way of a storm, or maybe even months in advance, so that there's a less of a loss of life or loss of property? One of the most fascinating things is if you think about the ability to predict behavior, are deep learning computers going to be able to predict who might commit a crime or who has a criminal tendency? And should they do anything if they realize that? So for our SAGE students, Deep learning and artificial intelligence and computer technology is something that's right on the cusp. It's very, very new, and our students have the ability to get involved, to learn about this, and actually to shape the future using one of the most exciting technologies we've ever seen. All right, thanks everybody.